Hey, it's Scott, and welcome back to yet another episode of Spin Magazine's Lip Service. I have with me the members of Wage War, Cody and Britton. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Doing great.
Awesome. You're on tour, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about your new record. The show is a little bit of this is your life. So I want to get into the history of the band. It's actually a genre, metalcore, that, to be quite honest with you, I never really explored that much. It's sort of a cross between, I guess I would say, metal and hardcore, which is super interesting. You guys hail from Ocala. So there's a lot to get into, including the new record. But let's talk about, first of all, how's the tour been going for you?
It's been going great. We are one day away from finishing it.
Yeah.
We started in Atlanta on the 13th, and we've been through every single kind of weather that you could possibly imagine, from torrential downpour to snow to ice to heat to all of it. But it's been great. Being out with Jess Johnson, Hawthorne Heights, and Falling in Reverse, it's definitely like a different tour for us. But I would much rather tour with bands that maybe aren't very similar to us than just kind of play the same stuff over and over again. So it's been fun.
We were talking about it a little bit because a lot of the artists on this tour with you are different genres, right? And I was actually did a deep dive into metalcore before you guys came on. It's interesting because I'm a rock guy, but I never really dove deep into metalcore. So explain to us, I guess for my audience that may not know so much. I mean, Cody, obviously you do the clean vocals, rhythm guitar, and Britton, you do the, I guess I've actually heard it referred to as like corpse singing, which is crazy. Have you heard that terminology?
Yeah, with some of the newer stuff we've been doing.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
What exactly is corpse singing? Because for me, when I hear it, it's heavy. It's fucking heavy. But obviously the corpse singing could only mean one thing. But I'd love to hear how you would describe sort of the genre in itself, because again, it's a different genre than some of my audience might be familiar with.
Is he meaning like more like stuff on Manic, you think, Cody?
No, I think he's just talking about like
just like the
screaming and
Yeah.
what the things that you're
Yeah,
doing
I
at,
just like grew up with like bands like Lamb of God and things like that. So just decided that's what I kind of want to do, and it's been working.
Kill
So, yeah.
Switch Engage,
Yeah.
obviously Architects. There's so many bands, Beartooth, right?
Yeah.
A lot of bands from this genre. But it's funny because when I was diving into, there's like deathcore, there's
Yeah.
metalcore.
There's too many.
There's too many. There's
Yeah.
there's now obviously Octane is a big supporter of the band, and Sirius.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that. And there's even like a genre that people refer to as like Octane core, which
Yeah.
I guess is a new genre, right? So what do you relate to the most? Because the band's progressed a lot. The new record, Manic, has for me, there's hints of like even like 9 Inch Nails on the new single, which is crazy because ultimately you start out as this super heavy band. I think you explored some different genres at the time, and now I think it kind of reached a culmination. It's getting a lot of critical acclaim on the new record, so we'll talk about that. But take me back to the beginning, if you don't mind. Like, how did you guys meet? Ocala is kind of Central Florida.
Horse country.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a hotbed of entertainment, but oddly enough, there's a lot of bands of your genre specifically that are from there.
So I mean, I think the very, very beginning. I was in a band with Seth, who is our other guitar player, and Britton was in another band for a while, and this is probably like 7th, 8th grade, like middle school. And we played like a show together at like a church, I believe. And we were always just like, me and Seth were just like, wow, like Britton's really good. And, we just kind of did our things, and those bands kind of fizzled out. And so Seth and I like kind of started this project that at the time was called Empires. And like the first thing was like, all right, well, we got to have Britton Bond. So we got Britton. We had 2 different members at the time for drums and bass. But the 3 of us and the other 2 started playing shows in like 2010, I think, under the name Empires. We would do absolutely anything: RV parks, gymnastics, gymnasiums, churches, floor shows at bars, like
7-Elevens, anywhere.
Literally, I feel like we played almost everywhere.
Yeah.
And then
Now, by the way, was Britton singing like that at the time? Because it's interesting, right? I mean, it's interesting how you would have found your voice that way. I mean, does it hurt to sing that way, Britton? I would imagine that like it's a very particular way of singing, so it's probably hard to initially it was probably hard to find that particular tonality in your voice, right?
Before like I got in the band with Cody, I'd already been doing it for like 3 or 4 years. So like my favorite thing to do was just go put on my favorite record in my room and just try to emulate that sound. So I feel like there's no like person coaching me or anything. I honestly was just trial and error, and like somehow I figured out how to do it the correct way. And yeah, it just kind of went from there. I put up like YouTube videos and stuff like that. But me and Cody had like mutual friends through church and stuff like that, and like, we'd be hanging out, and I'd like get on the mic and do like the metal screams and stuff, and then I don't know. Apparently, that was just very appealing to them, and I went over to Cody's house when you had the little makeshift studio in the back of your mom and
Oh
dad's.
yeah. Oh
And,
yeah.
So Empires was
Yeah.
very close to the music you're doing now, or was it
Yeah.
more just heavy
Yeah.
rock in a sense?
It was a worse version, but it was the same style of like metalcore, which you kind of touched on. That is like
Yeah.
the marriage of metal riffs and then the core part of hardcore, which is like in my mind breakdowns. So those are both appealing things to all of us because we love riffs, and then we love breakdowns, and then kind of the 2005 era of metalcore, Killswitch Engage and As I Lay Dying and bands like that. Like
Yeah.
they started bringing in the melodic factor with having like choruses and stuff like that. So we were just all drawn way into that. And so I think the original goal of the band was to be a heavy band, that had a sense of melody. And I think that we still stick to that today. And that probably is the metalcore formula. But yeah, I mean, I think when we started out, like, I don't think we ever had any, thoughts of like radio play, or I don't even know if Octane was a thing back then. Like that was, we were strictly just like, all right, cool. We'll do this band and like maybe we'll get good enough to like, open a tour like in 500 cap rooms.
Yeah.
And then thankfully it's gone a lot farther than that.
Because Britton, you mentioned Lamb of God, but what was the music that either one of you was listening to growing up? I mean, were you listening to Priest? Were you listening to Maiden? Or it's funny, Cody, because again, doing a bit of a deep dive here, turns out you're like a country fan and a rap fan, and I would have thought Pantera and Slipknot, but maybe not. I don't know.
So all of those things, yes. Britton is definitely more of the classic metal. I kind of started, I just recently started going backwards, actually. Like I just kind of got back into Metallica and Pantera and bands like that. But like yeah, when I grew up, like I kind of just went straight into. I think I got into heavy music because I thought it was ridiculous. Like someone showed me, like I think it was this band called Mortal Treason, and it was so funny to me. I was like, I can't believe they're like screaming and stuff. Like this is hilarious.
Now, is that death metal? I don't know if I know that.
They were super small band, like had a very small moment in the sun, but at the time like they were it for me, and then I just kind of been like, this is kind of cool. And then I would As I Lay Dying is the band that really brought me into where I am as like far as what I enjoy in heavy music.
Yeah, I grew up with my dad, and he was really big into like rock and roll and classic rock. Like he showed me old pictures of his car back in like the 80s. He had like a old Camaro with the Van Halen VH like on the
That
hood.
was me, yeah.
Yeah. So he was always into like Ozzy and Priest and things like that. So ever since I was a little kid, I was always listening to that. And then I remember being like 8 or 9 years old, going through his old like CD cabinet. You remember when we used to have like those really ugly giant entertainment centers?
Yeah.
My parents still have one.
Yeah. I'd open it up, and there was just like thousands of CDs he would have. And I remember pulling out Metallica Ride the Lightning, and it was just, I wanted just heavier metal from there ever since. So
I feel like a band like Pantera was really the precursor to this kind of music, because the way Phil
Absolutely.
sang obviously was a bit of this it was sort of a mix of singing and screaming, and
Yeah.
it's the earliest memories I can think of, besides the obvious regular metal stuff like Maiden and Priest and stuff like that. But at some point along the way, you meet the guys from A Day to Remember, right? And it feels like for you, that band becomes almost, I was kind of making a joke, it's almost like they're like the Kevin Bacon of like 6 degrees of separation for you, because everyone's connected to that band the way you grew up in Ocala. But talk to me about the fact that there are all these great bands and great acts coming from Ocala.
So when I moved to Ocala, for a while, I was the only like official person that lived in Ocala. Like we're all kind of suburby of that area, and I honestly got there like after all of the Day to Remember, the wave happened and like them coming up in there. I think I was around for like a couple music videos that they did, and then our other guitarist Seth, like Under Oath, obviously came up around there as well. More Tampa area, but they definitely played there a lot. Maylene and the Sons of Disaster. There's at least 2 or 3 more bands that are from the area. But yeah, I mean, it's weird because you go to Ocala and you would never park and be like, this is where it happens. You know what I mean? Like
I may never make it there, by the way. Is there anything there? What is it?
So we now have the World Equestrian Center.
Okay, that could be a reason for me to make it.
Yeah, they have an airport exclusively for flying in horses. Like it's big money stuff.
Yeah. But Britton, you're not actually from there. You're from a little bit around there, right?
I'm like
Central Florida.
45 minutes down the
Okay.
road. Yeah.
And the other guys are all from somewhere close to it.
Similar area, yeah.
And how did you meet, the other band members, and how did they all come to be?
I met Seth through my two of my childhood best friends. We were all in a band together, and then they were like, "Well, I met this kid." Honestly, a lot of our band is probably based around meeting in churches. But they were like, "Yeah, I have this friend, like he goes to this church or whatever, and he like shreds super hard." And we're like, "All right, well, let's bring him in." So that's how I met Seth. We met Britton through playing a show together. Steven, we played a show with Steven's old band, our drummer, like maybe like 2 years after we had been a band. And then when that spot opened up, he submitted a tryout. And then Chris, our bass player now, we met through A Day to Remember.
If the churches only knew what kind of music would be created from there.
Oh, I know, right?
Cody, it's funny. I heard a quote from you that said, the heaviest music comes from the softest hearts. So it's funny, right? Talk a little bit about that. And again, the heaviness of the music and how you guys are as people, because there is this strange, it's kind of crazy to me that you all met in church. I didn't even know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think that with this style of music, it's pretty crazy if you like dive in lyrically. And I think, and I guess, yeah, I'll just go for it. But like this style of music is very mental health centered, I feel like. And the aggression inside of it is what draws people to it. 'Cause, a lot of times, like, when people get frustrated or whatever, like all they want to do is just like throw everything down and just go, you know what I mean? Just like scream. And then so there's like some kind of release in that. And so, I think at the time I said it comedically because I was just like, it's so funny to me that like we're all of these like tattooed dudes wearing black and gauged ears and like all like or not just us but like the scene
in general.
Yeah, it's just like, but we're writing about like really sensitive soft topics. You know what I mean? And I think it's great. I'm not knocking it at all. We're one of those bands, but I think given the style of music, like a lot of it does lend itself to just like serious issues and like you having no other outlet to get your frustrations or your emotions out other than just like aggression.
Yeah.
It's funny. That same would not be said about the black metal scene in Norway, right?
Yeah,
The softest
exactly.
hearts.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's a heavy scene if you watch like the Vice documentary about that. Anyway, 2008 or so, the band starts up. It's called Empires. At a certain point, you need to change the name of the band. I know you went through a few iterations. War Within was one of the names too, right?
Yeah, that's actually a great story. So we had played A Day to Remember let us open up one of their hometown shows in an equestrian center, very Ocala. And we had just gotten these scrims made that had W's on them. And we had changed the name to War Within. We had to change Empires because that was a band out of Chicago. Unspoken Rule, they were much bigger than us and they had taken the name out of state. So it's like, if you took the name out of state, it's pretty much your name. So we did War Within. We like searched, all the, LLCs and stuff. Like, all right, we're good. So we play this show, get like just a hair of traction, like maybe like 50 shares on a picture or something. All of a sudden we get this cease and desist from this bar band in Nashville that, plays covers every night. But for some reason, LLC'd War Within. So we literally just started, but we had just spent, $500 on scrims, and that's a lot back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially for us.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, we got to keep it that. And then I think it was my mom that was like, oh, what about Wage War? And I was like, I don't hate it. And then here we are.
Yeah.
Did your mom have was there a deeper meaning there about from the name, or your mom had she really was onto something there, I guess?
I think she got it from a Bible verse, actually.
Oh, okay. Or it was just the two W's that.
Or to both things, yeah. We had Wincing Whales. We had crazy stuff going on.
Wincing Whales would not have been a great name.
I don't think it would have landed quite. I'm actually very happy on the band name that we landed on. I feel like it's very appropriate for the kind of music that we play.
So you go on and you end up meeting the guys from A Day to Remember, and tell me how that came to be, because obviously that played into your whole history and really the last 10 or 12 years of your career.
I think a lot of it, like the way we met them is just playing so many shows in Ocala. We had like a mutual friend that was booking shows there also, that kind of like was up and coming when they were playing shows there, and we kind of just started getting like our own little crowd that was following us around every time we play Ocala. And I feel like some of the guys in the band it kind of turned their head to be like, this band kind of like, they riff hard. First of all, I think that's what Josh liked about us the most, right?
Yeah, it was just kind of being tipped off by people. It's just like, like, hey, have you seen what's going on in in your hometown right now? And they're like, no. And so I think Josh had hit me up on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it was like, your band's rad. Like, would love to just kind of sit and talk with y'all or whatever. And then from there, it just kind of became a, exchange of like, here's a live DVD of, our last show. I'd send him like GarageBand demos or whatever. And then, we ended up signing with a management company and a label as well. And then Jeremy, the vocalist of Data Remember, produced our first record and second record, a track on Pressure, and then produced half of our new record as well. So it's just kind of been this ongoing thing. And then, as that has happened, like they've let us do some shows with them. We've toured with them.
Were you guys fans of the band beforehand?
Oh, yeah.
Massive fans?
Hometown heroes. Yeah.
Definitely. And so it's funny, but you actually were proactive in the way you met them, right? Or was it just an email that you got from him, or was you guys were actually out there hustling? Was that the way that you guys?
No, yeah, we were definitely hustling. I would say.
And you go on to do this first record, 2015 Blueprints, which gets a ton of critical acclaim, and you do the Warped Tour. So talk to me about those days, because obviously the Warped Tour days are classic and amazing, and feels like a little bit in the past, but and now there's, I don't know if you saw, there's like this new festival now
when
that
we
just
were
came
Young
out,
Fest.
which is like every band from that festival.
You know, when you're like young and you're a kid, you're like, the big thing is like, I want to be in a big band that's signed one day. And then, when it finally happened, we were like celebrating and stuff, and then like the true work began,
which is the craziest lie of all time. It's just like, you get signed, you're done. It's like, oh no, you're buckle up.
That's when it begins. And we went around the country more than 10 times in a van, and did Warped Tour on a van, which was pretty gnarly.
And drove ourselves. This is our biggest road dog cred of all time.
Yeah,
we drove ourselves in a van on Warped Tour, which is like suicide.
But that's actually the way that some of these bands make money, because they save money without actually getting the bus. But there's great stories about how you guys were touring early on with, like, you're in a Walmart parking lot and a van and pool floats and all kinds of like strange things about where you were sleeping, right? Because ultimately, like, you really can't get a full night's sleep in that van. So there's great stories about ways that you were just trying to survive, right? Do you remember those days and some of those great stories behind that?
I remember them like they're yesterday for sure. But yeah, those times were like trying and hard, but I wouldn't trade them for anything. I developed like the best relationship with the guys in the band. They're my best friends. And I'm like, that first year of really hitting it hard touring, what did we do? We did the Fresh Faces tour, right, with Ice Nine.
Yep.
Right into August Burns Red. Then we did a Chelsea Grand Run, right?
January, February, yeah.
Then did we go to Europe before?
Yep.
Yeah. So our first time in Europe, we're in like just like a Sprinter van with like 6 bucket seats in the back, and we're just like, we can't sleep like this. So
Right.
I just remember like the first night being over there, we had like these, those scrims we were talking about. Cody like wrapped himself up in those things as like a blanket, just freezing on the floor. And we're like, we got to figure something else out. Dude. So I remember we bought a bunch of blankets, and we were like, well, why don't we just buy like pool floats, like the long ones, you'd like lounge and like tan in. And it worked for a little bit. I remember just, playing the show, coming out and having this little foot pump. We were all pumping these floats up. Everyone's like looking at it like, what the hell are you guys doing?
But that's what you got to do to survive in the early years. And people don't know, because people think touring is like glamorous, and at a certain level it is when you achieve success. But initially it's never glamorous.
Yeah. No.
But for the first record, even, you did something like 35 songs in 2.5 weeks. Is that what you guys had to do?
So we picked out of 31 songs and narrowed it down to, I think, 11 or 12 was the first record. It was stressful.
Yeah.
But we did it, and it's weird. It was like, I feel like up until the record that we just did, every record is like, go, 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 go. And it's wait. Like, so we did that record in 2.5 weeks and didn't come out for another year. And I was like, why did we take so long? But obviously it worked, so I'm not too mad about it. But yeah, we, sifted through it, because you got your whole life to write your first record, right?
That's what they're saying. And then you have like a year to write your second one, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah. When you look back on, obviously you do Dead Weight and Pressure, your second, third records. When you look back on those records and you experimented a bit with the genres, I mean, how do you feel about those records now when you look back on them?
I mean, I think thankful is probably the best word. Or, like, bands will always look back on their older material and be like, yeah, like, we're better now. But, I think realizing what it was for that time, and also not wanting to rob people of what that record was for them at that time is important. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously we don't have nearly as much fun playing old songs as we do playing new songs, but I think that they're important and they're very foundational in our band being where it is today. So I've never put out a song that I don't think we've ever put out a song that I just like straight up don't like. But I feel I can see where all of the pieces and all of the stepping stones are to get us to where we are now. So
You ever go back and listen to those records?
I actually just did like
Did you?
a couple of weeks ago.
Every
Yeah.
once in a while.
And how do you feel about them when you listen to them again?
It's just cool. Like when I listen to those songs, it's very nostalgic and just brings me back to like that time period in my life. And yeah, those songs were fun to do. It's just I feel like we've done a lot more exploring and growing in our writing and things like that.
Yeah, and any great stories from the Warped Tour that you can remember, or just because I mean, obviously that time in life was so epic.
Tell them the last day.
All right. So Warped Tour, day whatever. What is it, like 2.5 months long? So
Dude, I think it
day
was like,
50 or 60 something.
mhm.
So we have one pair of clean clothes that we've been saving for the end of the tour.
Yeah.
We ended in Portland, Oregon,
Mhm.
and we deadheaded back to Florida. Like didn't even stop for hotels, drive-throughs only. Like we were just so ready to go home.
Yeah.
So
You have
we
no
had
bus driver at this point either. You guys are
no.
driving
This is
yourselves.
a van.
Right.
This is ourselves in a van
We
with
do
them.
like 3-hour shifts. Like
Yeah.
you drive for 3 hours,
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
else just rotate.
Sure.
So the shower was off-site. It was like a Days Inn that Warped had rented.
Mhm.
So we all go take the shuttle, get the shower. Britton's in this nice, clean white tee. He's got black athletic shorts on with like compression pants under and flip-flops. And buses were starting to pull out, and Britton slipped on an oil slick and just completely.
Yeah, someone like in their bus just like pulled the plug on some oil, and it was so hot and it just like blended in right with like the black pavement, and I just bust my butt, dude. Just
And
like,
did you do the show that night, or?
Oh well, we had already
This is
played
after the
show.
show. We were
Okay,
ready to
the
go
show.
home,
We
and
were ready
Britton's
to go
covered in
home,
oil.
and I'm just covered in oil.
Oh
dude.
God!
And just like, yep, here we go.
Whatever can go wrong. A weird way to end a tour, right?
Yeah. I'm like, well, this is Warped. Yeah.
Are you still friendly with a lot of bands that you perform with on those tours? Are you guys still?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, we very much cherish the camaraderie of tour and love just hanging out with bands and making new friends, and we've made a lot of incredible like lifelong friends so far. So we try to keep that up for sure.
Definitely. Well, congrats on the new record, by the way,
Thank you.
Manic. It's great. A lot of people love this record. As I said, there's elements to me of like Nine Inch Nails, electronica on the record. So talk to me about the process. Obviously, again, we talked about experimenting in genres, and this record takes you guys into a different direction. So talk about the process of this record. It was what, like 2020 when you started writing this record?
Yeah, so we had just put out Pressure in August of 2019, done 3 tours on it, a US headliner, UK headliner, and an Australian support tour. And then the pandemic hit, and it was like, all right, well, I guess I should, make use of this time. So I started writing for Manic probably like 2 weeks into the pandemic. So I got like a head start on that. And then something that we did this tour, or this record that we'd never done, is we like rented a couple cabins and got together and worked on songs together, which was really cool and really special for us. So we did that twice. That was, I think we did one in September and one in November, maybe, or August and
This
September.
is sort of after the lockdown. During the lockdown, you obviously
During,
yeah.
more so during. We hadn't seen each other since tour, so
Yeah.
it was crazy. So we just had a good time. Like, it was kind of a no pressure situation. Like, we weren't like, all right, we got to sit down and write songs. Like, we got cabins with hot tubs and, we'd just hang out and vibe or whatever. But we ended up getting probably like 4 or 5 songs from the record done in those retreats. And then studio stuff started in when did we tracked High Horse in January of 2021. Didn't come out till August, and then we did the LA portion of our record, which is 2 minutes away from here, in April, and then did the Florida portion in June. So yeah, I guess it kind of started as soon as COVID started.
Yeah.
It's interesting because a lot of people had a lot of time to sit around, obviously, during this time period. And I mean, you do not want to go back and listen to any songs, obviously about COVID. Who wants
Right.
to listen to songs about that? But ultimately, this record is about mental health, right?
Yeah.
And so, everybody can relate to dealing with their own mental health and depression. And everybody was stuck at home. And even myself, I'm a person that's super positive and happy, but everyone dealt with it in their own way. So talk to me about, the songs in this record. Obviously, you weren't going to write songs about PPE and quarantine and weird things.
Yeah.
That would have been really weird. But the mental health aspect of what this record kind of means to you.
I feel like the whole thing, like wrapped up in a nutshell, would just be I feel like us as like members of the band, we always try to like put in like how we're feeling on every record. I feel like Cody says it best. It's like a yearbook almost,
Mm.
you know, on how we're feeling. And that record is just there's like a lot of frustration, and I feel like we were all feeling it, just feeling like a dog backed into a corner all the time. And yeah, and it's just a record about being like, we're trying to find the light at the end of this tunnel, like don't even see it yet, but we're gonna keep trucking on. But yeah, I feel like the overall tone, and I've heard it from other people, being like, it's not like I would say it was like our heaviest record, but I feel like the stuff we're talking about is like, it's very menacing, and um, you know, that's just how I take it. Is just it's a record that, you know, our mental health was spiraling down in that time, and
Yeah.
you know, we just wrote songs about it.
Think about all
So-
the positive records that will hopefully come out when we're behind, when
Yeah.
this is behind us,
Yeah.
right? But did you all contribute to the writing process, Cody? Or do you kind of start with the riffs at your house? Because I know riffs are something that you're really, you're like
Yeah.
a riff master, right? So,
Well, I try to be. I end up I do a majority of the writing for our band, but on this record, I think everyone definitely chipped in and had parts on it. So yeah, I mean it was different. This is definitely more of probably the most collaborative effort that we've had so far, but a lot of it started at my house basically.
It's interesting. I don't know if you ever read this book by Malcolm Gladwell, but he talks about the 10,000 hours rule. After you put 10,000 hours into something, you're sort of ready to succeed in life. And so 4 years into this, you're probably at 20,000 hours, I would imagine, into this band. Do you feel like this was your success now as a kind of combination of luck, timing, hard work, or connecting with the right people like Jeremy, A Day to Remember? Like, what is it that sort of is the recipe, you think, for the band to be successful at this point?
I think it's a couple things. I mean, I've always said like, I always feel like we were never supposed to like get as far as we have, just because of the sheer likelihood of the amount of bands out there that at the time we got signed were probably just as good or better than us, and then we, luck or whatever you want to call it, like we were picked, and then I think from there is when we came in and really decided to make the right decisions. Put the work in on songs and like the things that we cared about. And then I think the other thing that's important is our relationship with each other.
Yeah.
Because we're truly like 5 best friends. And I know so many bands that just like can't stand each other. And those are the bands that like fizzle out or, shows on stage or whatever that might be. But we've just
That's when the solo records come out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like I feel like that is something that we have that is very apparent through live shows and music and everything, is that we have each other's back, and I think that's a big deal.
Definitely. And let's talk about this tour, because obviously we were talking about it a little bit before when we just sat down, but you got a show at the Hollywood Palladium in like a day or so, and then you head back home, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How the show's been for you guys?
It's been amazing. Like a lot, I would say it's been about like, maybe like 40% of our fans, are coming out to these shows, and but the rest is just like making, new heads turn, which has been pretty cool.
Most of them are sold out. Or
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's been one that isn't sold out. Honestly,
most of them sold out. It's just cool to get in front of new people for sure. This isn't like a typical metalcore tour that we've been doing in the past. So it's cool to see just new people out there and seeing the head bobs go for the first time.
Especially after being home for so long, right?
Yeah.
So because I think that you guys probably hadn't had that time off you had a whole year and a half to take a break, and really that's probably the first time that's happened in 10 years or so, right? You've really been touring like nonstop the last 10 or 12 years.
I mean, it sounds weird. I was not excited about the pandemic, but I was thankful for the time home.
Yeah.
Like I think we were burned out by that time because we had just done, like I said, US, UK, and Australia basically back to back. So we were all just like, for the love of God, like, could we just be home for a little bit?
A few of you guys got married, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you couldn't have done that, and you don't want to get married and be like, hey, I'm going on tour for a couple of years. I'll see you later. So ultimately, the timing actually worked out pretty well for you. There was a crazy story that I heard about you guys touring and crossing the border at some point on one of the European tours. So talk to me about that story, because I love that story.
Well,
it's a wild one.
It is a wild one. If Chris was here, he would be the one that would tell it the best, I think. But basically, we were going from, is it France over back to the UK?
Yeah,
it's like
across the English
4
Channel.
in the morning or something like that. We were all asleep in our bucket seat sprinter on the cold hard floor. And there was just like a tree in the middle of the road, and there were no trees around, so we were all just like, well, this doesn't look very good. So there's this big, obstruction in the road, and then all of a sudden, just like people in like, torn clothing just start running at vehicles and climbing on top of semis and stuff, and
Sounds like something out of Mad Max or something.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
I think in my I was so scared that I didn't even look up. Like
Yeah.
I was laying on the floor and all I could hear was back up, go, 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 like all that stuff. I think Britton said you grabbed a nail clipper for protection.
Yeah, dude. Like you have those little nail clippers and they have that little tiny like fold out knife. I'm like, I'm gonna go down.
That's gonna do a lot of good in
Yeah.
a fight.
Yeah,
I would
but
imagine.
come to find out, that was around the time that the Syrian refugee stuff was happening,
Yeah.
and which is incredibly sad. But you like in hindsight, you think about like what you wouldn't do for your family. You know what I mean? So it's just like I don't know the actual level of danger that we were in, but we ended up just peeling out and making it over that tree somehow.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, like you didn't know,
Yeah.
you know, and until like it kind of set in and be like, that, like a month before that was like when all the bombings were happening in Syria, so they'd like migrated into Europe, and they were trying to just like sneak on like semis and stuff and hide under them so they can get across the English Channel into Great Britain. But yeah, at that point, I mean, it's 3 a.m. We didn't know.
Right. You had the nail clipper. So that's all I
Yeah.
know.
But like we get on down the road and there's like their version of like their SWAT team and dogs out there, and they're just like, I remember getting into customs. They're like passports immediately, and they like opened up and checked, make sure we weren't holding anybody. But yeah, that was a wild night.
And they love metal in Europe, especially Germany. And are the crowds different for you in Europe than they are in the States, or at this point do you think they're about equal? Given the fact that people have been holed up for the last
It
year or so
depends.
in America.
Like Germany loves its metal. I mean,
they love metal.
Rammstein's come from
Yeah.
there. Like so
Scorpions.
many, so many big bands. So, anytime we're playing in Germany, it's just absolute like just chaos in those rooms. But
and a lot of the metal festivals are right. There's a lot of
Rock and Ring, Rock and Park.
the UK goes off for us. There's just some countries you get into. They're more of like just chill. Like Amsterdam isn't like they don't like do backflips off the stage and things like that. They're more for just listening. I mean, they will get a pit going and stuff like that. But
do you prefer the European audiences, or do you?
I probably prefer States personally.
Yeah.
But that's no disrespect. That's probably just because I like
Germany's
like
always a
being
nice
home.
treat though.
Yeah. It's always interesting culturally too when you go to like gas stations in Poland or wherever you are, and things are just different.
Yeah.
Right?
The
So
Germans will also tell you exactly how you did. Too.
Right.
Yeah.
They will, if you sucked that night, they will let you know.
Tonight's show was no good.
Yeah, literally, like they come up to the merch table and be like, "I'm not gonna try to do an accent." That just be like, "Last time you played a lot better," and we were like, "All right, thanks."
Thanks, Kerrang. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting. People come to see you now on this tour. Are you mostly playing songs from this new record, or is it a mix?
I think it's seven songs from the new record. 1 from Blueprints, 2 from Deadweight, and 1 from Pressure.
Yeah, playing low and
That's it.
yeah, that's it.
And obviously, you guys were voted SiriusXM's Future 5 2022.
Huge.
Talk to me about how much that means for a band like yourselves, and obviously the Octane Accelerator. Octane's been such a huge supporter of the band.
Mhm.
It wasn't initially, right? I mean, I feel like this has happened a lot over the last couple of years for you.
It's been awesome. Like right when we first started this band, and like we were getting like doing music videos and putting it out on YouTube, whatever, on our first record. Like I'd never even thought like I'm like, okay, we're signed, we're gonna like do this music thing. I never even thought I would make it like to this part of it, like we're getting radio play and things like that. So it's been a wild ride, and it's been awesome to see our music kind of grow and be able to do these things that I never thought we would do.
Because Octane is playing they are playing mostly metalcore, more or less, right?
Yeah, they're really this like they've become this bridge for bands like us to like if it does well on Octane that makes terrestrial FM take a second look at it and be like, well, this is crushing, you know what I mean? And I mean, while we're here, shout out Jose, Shannon, Katie, and Grant for putting on for us. And like when we got the news, like we were like, seriously, like there's a lot of great bands that they play on there. So I mean, we're definitely very honored that they chose us to put that forward.
I think the song was like #1, your new single, right? Recently?
Yeah, we got #1 on the Biggins countdown. And then the all-time Biggins, I think we came in at like #9, which is crazy because I'm looking at some of my favorite songs stacked in between our song.
Yeah.
So yeah, very very thankful for their support. It has done wonders for us, and it's just cool to see how many people will, comment and just be like, never heard of this band before. Like, thanks for showing me. Like, love this song. It's a new day and age. You know what I mean?
Apparently, you have crazy fans on Reddit. I haven't really done. I don't really understand Reddit, so I don't really look at it much.
Reddit's like the
But,
wild west of the internet.
Yeah,
Man.
but there's like a whole slew of people that just talk about Wage War all the time on Reddit. Have you heard Turnstile, by the way? A band that I really like. It's sort of
Yeah.
hardcore
Britton loves
meets.
Turnstile,
Love
Yeah,
that band.
yeah, very cool band. I feel like they're a band that's sort of paving the way for that genre in a way, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so.
Definitely a hardcore band. Not so much metal, but like
Yeah.
hardcore rock, I would say.
Yeah, like the more like the hardcore punk element that's coming out of them, which is super sick. Because, I feel like bands like Black Flag and that kind of stuff hasn't been cool for a while, and I feel like they're kind of bringing that edge back, which is
Definitely.
Sick. Yeah.
And you guys are actually going to play for us. You did an acoustic version of Circle the Drain,
Mhm.
which we've been provided. So tell me about that. You did a whole acoustic session not long ago, and the songs are so much different acoustically. So it's interesting because they're so heavy on the record, and then you hear this acoustic. Do you like doing the acoustic version of these songs?
I love it.
Yeah. Because you love country too, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I love.
I mean,
Britton's a country fan too, but
yeah.
for me, a lot of these songs start that way, so it's cool to kind of strip them back down, and like, it's fun for me to like fulfill that facet of what I love about music, because, being in a metal band's cool, and like the energy and all that stuff is insane. But there are some nights where I like get off stage, or like right before I go on stage, it's just like, it would be so cool to literally just go on stage and vibe for a little bit, you know what I mean, and have more of a sing along than just like, all right, I need to just get up there and just go nuts. And we actually did our first like full blown acoustic show the other day, in Denver, and had an absolute blast. So,
Is there a Wage War country record coming? That's what I need to know.
We got some.
There could be.
It ain't a country record, but we do have some cool stuff
Yeah.
surrounding the country realm. I think it's funny, and people have started to pick up on it. But like, if you listen to like Wage War choruses, they're basically country choruses.
Yeah.
Like just as far as like the vibe and like the role, it's like I've been putting country choruses in in metal for about 4 years now. So
Definitely not Britton's verse singing, right?
well, some of it. Britton sings a lot on Manic, actually.
No, I'm talking about on the record. It's heavy.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
definitely very heavy.
Yeah.
So
And
have you already started working on a new record? Because you're going to go home now.
Yeah.
And are there more tour dates they have for this record? Because the record
Yeah.
came out, in like September at this point? It's
October.
October. So it's actually not even like so new for you guys. I don't know.
Yeah, we got a lot coming up, actually. We just announced a kind of like a B market headliner for April and May, and those are mixed in with some arena shows with Godsmack, which is exciting for us.
Right.
First time in arena.
Yeah.
And then everything else we can't talk about. But yes, I'm sorry.
So we'd be touring this record through the end of the year, you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
But if it's up to me, we'll have new music out by the end of the year. But it's not up to me, but if it was.
Yeah.
It's funny, we were talking about on another show. It's like, and I heard you guys talk about it too. It's like the fans are so ravenous now for anything new that I heard you talk about. As soon as you finish one record, literally the next day you're starting to work on another record,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, you have to. Like, you can put out the best record in the world, and it's just like flash in the pan. Because someone's already out with something else, and then like, that's why the single game is working so well, because it's like people don't consume albums anymore.
Yeah.
They consume singles. Like,
Definitely.
you're as good as your 4 songs that you decided to take to radio, do a music video for, like whatever, like that, and everything else is just for like the fans.
Especially
like,
in this streaming world, I feel like the rap genre like has it perfect. They'll just put out like
Singles upon singles, yeah.
like every couple months they're
and
putting out new
playlisting
singles.
Yeah.
and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like,
I mean, that should be said. You guys put out tons of videos. I feel like you know, again, doing some research, you probably have like 25 videos already or something.
we got a lot.
How many do you have actually?
I'd say at least 4 per record, so that's 16.
Probably
Plus
a few
all the
extras.
all of the, like,
acoustic
acoustic stuff.
and-
Yeah, 20 or 25
Yeah.
sounds about right.
It's
for sure.
crazy. So obviously that's an integral part of your, the way that you guys market stuff. Is some of what you do now like DIY in a sense? Obviously you have a team around you, but you feel the need to really do a lot of stuff on your own now for a band like yourselves. Is it important that the hustle's still there and that, you don't rely on your team so much and that you're really out there doing the videos all the time and working 24/7?
We definitely try to like dream up a lot. Like, even the album cover for Manic is completely from Britton's brain. Like, he was like, this is what I want, and this is how I see it, and that's literally the album cover. We're very hands-on with the music creation, obviously. I'm a co-producer on Manic, so a lot of the songs like in my production started there. We're very adamant about merch designs, artwork, stage production.
Yeah.
Where I would say that we're very hands on. Obviously, there's some things that we don't know how to do that
Right,
need to get
of
done,
course.
but I think everything that we have control over, we do like to be involved in.
Yeah. Did the writing process for this record start with all of you, or was it really just you, Cody, that started out with some of the songs?
Me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then everyone brings in their own song ideas, or is it fairly? I mean, at the cabin, is it
Yeah,
a
I
fairly
think it was-
collaborative thing?
I think it was more so like playing off what I had.
So you bring in the riffs,
Bringing the
and then the
riffs,
bands
demos,
add
or
stuff.
whatever. Yeah, we've tried to do a couple from scratch songs, and it just that hasn't clicked for us yet. I'm not saying that it won't.
We
but
had one on Pressure. The one Chris was doing that one riff. What was it called? Take the Fight.
Oh yeah,
That
Take the
one
Fight.
kind of came out like that.
Yeah, Take the Fight for sure. I
It's
forgot.
interesting. There was so many records now this year that were done over people sending files back and forth. And old school people just used to get in a room and and music would obviously generate that way. But do you feel like during this pandemic were some of the songs done that way? Do you send files back and forth?
Yeah,
It's a little unrock and roll to send files back and forth.
Death
but,
Roll. Like the heaviest on our record was done over Zoom.
Wow.
Yeah, me, Jeremy McKinnon, and Will Putney, producer, wrote that song over Zoom.
And you think that Jeremy will work on the new record for you? Because this is a relationship that's gone on, like I said.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
10
I
or
would
12
always
years.
love to have him involved, and that I don't know what that capacity is, but he's certainly always welcome and someone that we love to collaborate with. So
There'll probably be a time when you guys will record together, I would imagine.
do what?
There'll probably be a time when you guys will actually record together.
We've been
I
trying
would
to get
imagine.
him on the record for years. He won't do it.
Jeremy, it's your time. So check out the new tour. Obviously, the tour you can't talk about,
Yeah.
which is definitely coming up. Manic, the new record, which is great. And definitely, I want to jump now to Circle the Drain, the song that you guys are going to perform. I appreciate you guys coming on. It's great hang.
Yeah.
You're playing right by my house, so I'll have to come check you guys out soon. And thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah. Thank you for having
All
us.
right, guys, of course.